Let's see now what are the elements from which your self-esteem is built. In this case, we have first of all the internal elements which arise from your own psyche and the thoughts and perceptions you have in relation to yourself. And secondly, we have the external components that arise as a reflection of the perception that the society in which you live or your culture has in relation to who you supposedly are. Let's see first the internal elements. In the first case, what builds your self esteem is the fact of knowing what makes you special. And that's why one of the first questions I ask in my consultation is precisely this: what makes you special? You would be surprised that the majority of my clients arrive in such a state that it prevents them from seeing what special that they are. It takes several minutes until they finally tell me, I don't think I have anything special. By now, you've probably noticed why I asked that question. Mainly because I am inducing the state in which you can discover what makes you special. If you cannot easily answer me, it means that in some way your self esteem has declined. That's the conclusion. A person with balanced self esteem usually answers this question very quickly. So it would be ideal for you to ask yourself this question so that you can discover what makes you special. The key to answering this is to think about what allows you to stand out from other people. Do you paint better than the rest? And do people praise you for that? In my case, the answer I could give you is that I am the best reader in the universe. No one interprets people and the signs of the universe better than me. That's why my career as a psychotherapist began with the interpretation of dreams, because everyone asked me to interpret their dreams, even when I was in school. If you notice, thanks to this, I am clear that I have a kind of superpower, and that is the big component in determining whether or not you have your self esteem in balance. As I already mentioned, most people who lack self esteem do so because they do not achieve what makes them different from others. That's why I also told you that this is internal. The second component of this part of your self esteem is whether you know what makes you unique. If you notice, previously we saw what made you special, what you stood out at. And the third component of your internal self esteem is whether you know the value you have for others. When I ask my clients this question, most tell me that they have no value to others. A person who has balanced self esteem is very clear about the value he brings to others, regardless of whether these people manage to recognize the value they have. This happens a lot in the relationship you establish with your parents, especially if your parents were the toxic type. Those people who live telling you how bad you are. When a person has a balanced self esteem, he or she is able to overcome the unfair perception that parents have regarding them. Your father or mother may tell you that you are a bad son, but if your self esteem is in balance, you will say, I am a good son, because I bring such an element of value to my parents. For example, I had the case of a person who helped her mother a lot in her work. The mother, of course, did not see it that way. She believed that it was her daughter's obligation to work for her. But the daughter knew that if she did not exist, the mother would not have support. The same thing happens in the case of relationships. Your partner, or even your ex partner, could have a vision of the value you have, but regardless of this, it is you who defines that value. I had the case of a person who was a housewife and who raised her children, and the husband did not see the value of that work. Actually, I have had many cases of this type, and regardless of what the husband thinks, if the wife is clear about the importance of what she does, her self-esteem will continue to be in balance. So the question you have to ask yourself here is if you know precisely the value that your existence represents for others, beyond what others think of you.